Okay. So, today's panel will be about the role of distributors in advancing sustainability. And despite not owning products or services, distributors, including travel agencies, OTAs, and other types of distributors, have a significant responsibility to influence, impact, and also encourage the supply chain and partners and stakeholders to advance their sustainability adherence and operation. But how distributors leverage the GSTC framework to promote sustainable practice is not exactly a copy-paste and the same by each one. I see here a few faces that actually represent other partners that utilize the GSTC framework in a different way. And that's why we actually wanted to bring 4 different speakers on stage to talk about how they utilize it, and you'll hear that it's quite different. Some will share insights of what they have learned from their customers and partners. Some will share a little bit of some of their programs in general about sustainability and how it is being kind of tied into the issue of highlighting sustainable hotels and other sustainable products and services. And as such, I would like also to share with you that we at GSTC, we have something called the Market Access Program, which we work with different OTAs and other partners to share with them the list of service providers, hotels, tour operators, and so on, that are certified as sustainable. Then onward, they are able to highlight those businesses, hotels and tour operators and destinations to their clients and to their customers that actually, as we'll see soon and hear from our colleague in Booking.com, more and more are interested, more travelers are looking into sustainable solutions, sustainable services and experiences. And that's an important point, right? We have this sometimes a bit of a tension, I would say, or let's say contradiction or conflict, or let's use a different, more soft manner to say. On the one hand, many times our partners want to show a lot of the service providers that are sustainable. So the more, the merrier, right? Because some of these distributors, they distribute hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, millions of hotels, of tour providers, and so on. But the number of actual verified service providers that are considered sustainable is not that high. We hope that it will be higher, but we know that the demand at the moment is higher than the supply in that sense of sustainably certified as sustainable accommodations. So there are different programs. Some are more strict, some are more include a few more other standards and so on. And there's no one path that fits everyone. So without taking too much time in this introduction, I would like to all of you to listen to what some of those that will be on stage will hear a number of different types of partners and distributors of services and hotel space. And feel free to ask us questions. So although I do have a few questions for them, I can ask those questions also in person. And I do encourage you to use the Slido to get some questions to us. Don't be shy to get difficult questions. I'm here, I love difficult questions. I hope, and I checked with them, all of them will be also fine and survive if you ask difficult questions. So let's move to introduce our panel speakers. Start with David Noe, Senior Manager, Sustainability Strategy at Booking.com. David leads the development and implementation of strategic sustainability program at Booking.com. But before he joined Booking.com, he has an extensive experience as on sustainability as Chief Sustainability Officer for a large energy company in Chile as a direct advisor on macroeconomic policy and sustainability to the Minister of Finance of Chile. He holds an engineering degree as well as a master in public policy from Harvard Kennedy School. David? We also have with us Justin Ong, the Regional Manager of APAC at Hotel Beds Group, HBX Group now, and which is a key player in travel tech ecosystem, connecting and empowering businesses across the dynamic world of travel. Justin leads the APAC partnership with governments with strong focus on advancing sustainability in the region. Justin. Next, we have the real Jonathan Cao, the Managing Director of North Asia for BCD Travel. He brings over 2 decades of expertise in corporate travel across North Asia region. And as a managing director of BCD Travel North Asia, he leads the dynamic team dedicated to helping Greater China companies and travelers to optimize their businesses' travel experiences. He graduated from the University of Toronto with an economic degree and also holds a master in e-business from the University of Hong Kong, which is his hometown, and has the Chartered Financial Analysis CFA designation. Jonathan. Last but not least, we have Rebecca Kyler, Senior Manager of Sustainability at Klook. Rebecca is a Senior Manager of Sustainability at Klook, and here's a fun fact. She was one of the first employees at Klook, so they recently celebrated 10 years. That's also, we know how many years you've been with them then. And she has taken different roles in multiple teams, from content CEO, business development, until she now has been leading the sustainability efforts for the past 2 years. And I think over the past 2 years, we've been in touch and conversing quite a lot. Rebecca. All right, so let's start with hearing from David.
Okay. Very much. First of all, thank you very much for inviting us to this panel. It's great also to be sharing this stage with such great speakers this morning already. So we are invited to talk about the role of distributors in advancing sustainability, and we will specifically be focusing on how to improve the pathway to sustainability certification, because it's a journey, as many of you know. It's important to understand that we have an evolving industry landscape. We've all spent the last day and a half attending different sessions when we have seen the evolving industry in different dimensions. I was before sitting in this very room and we were hearing about the measurement and evaluation and how the measurement and evaluation has been actually changing our efforts in sustainability. There are changes in the regulatory front as well. Actually, during the last GSTC conference, we spent quite a bit of time in Stockholm discussing about the challenges of the regulatory context and how it's going to evolve, considering the Green Claims Directive and empowering consumers for the green transition. And another evolving trend is the one involving our travelers and our travelers' preferences. So we conduct research every year, and the research that we conduct tells us that travelers find sustainability information appealing. They find it interesting, they find it useful for making decisions. But they want to trust the information. They need clarity and they need consistency across the different accommodations on the claims that each accommodation makes. What does it mean? Almost half of global travelers say that coming across an accommodation labeled as more sustainable is increasingly appealing. They do value the fact that the accommodation is labeled as more sustainable. And they're expecting us, travel companies, to supply with sustainable accommodations to the travelers. So we do have a role to play. 75% is the expectation at the global level, and at the APAC level is even higher, it's 78% that they expect travel companies to supply with the sustainable accommodations. So that means that as a company today, certifications are the only way we display the sustainability efforts of accommodations. But we all face a problem here. Certified properties are not yet widespread. Today, less than 1% of the properties that we list in our website have a sustainability certification. And that is a problem because the travelers are expecting us to provide them with sustainable options, and they cannot find enough sustainable options for the travel that they want to make. There's another research that we conduct that instead of focusing on travelers, it focuses on partners, on our accommodation partners. And we have been investigating the barriers that our accommodation partners are facing in order to achieve certification. And we have bucketed these barriers in 3 groups. One of them is that many of them are not aware of which certifications they have available. 63% would like to know which programs are available, for instance, in the region. Also, they don't know which programs are available for the type of accommodation that they are. Certifications for a hotel is different from a hotel accommodation for a campsite, which is different, for certification for a campsite, and it's different from a certification for an individual home or short-term rental. So they do want to have more information. The second is the cost. They do find that the cost of application to the certification is too high. And the problem is not the cost. The problem is that they're struggling to find a viable business case to invest on a certification. That is another problem that we see consistently across our partners. And the third one, we put it together as the fact that many of our partners are too far back in the sustainability journey. When they get certified, it's a pretty advanced decision when they choose to get certified. But before, they need to make many efforts in order to move along that path. So, what is the role that distributors can play? We see roles for distributors on the same 3 buckets. On awareness, providing partners with information of which certifications they have available for the type of accommodation that they are and for the region that they are part of. On cost, there are opportunities to provide travel accommodation partners with information on the cost of certifications, potential discounts, and also funding available. There are many DMOs, countries and regions that offer financing for certifications. And the third one is the opportunity that we have as distributors to move our partners in the sustainability journey. So a few weeks ago, we launched a new product, a first version of a product, which aims at making it easier to take the next step in the sustainability journey. This is a product that is visible in our extranet to our partners, and the idea of the product is to help move along the sustainability journey to our partners, offering information, identifying practices that they can implement, and also providing alternative certifications that they can get, information on the cost, and financing for that as well. It goes without saying that this product is in parallel to our continuous effort to display certifications in our front end. So any partner that has one of the 63 certifications that we currently work with still is displayed in our front end to everyone that is seeking for a sustainable option. In particular, how does it work? What does this product look like? We asked accommodation partners to fill up a questionnaire, but we have information on accommodations. Our previous product, the Travel Sustainable product, had information on 1.4 million partners. So we pre-fill the questionnaire to those partners with whom we have collected information. And we asked additional questions in case the questionnaire was not pre-filled completely. Those questions allow us to identify initiatives that the accommodation partner can take, initiatives on dimensions such as water management, energy efficiency, climate change, community relationship, leveraging information that we have already developed that is available in our sustainability handbook, but also leveraging information that we have based on the partnership that we have with UN Tourism. Last year, we launched 4 different courses with UN Tourism that are also available in this product. And finally, we show alternative certifications. Certifications that are relevant for the region where the accommodation partner is, certifications that are relevant for the type of partner that they are. We offer information on price. Sometimes it's a price, sometimes it's a price range. We offer information on discounts. We contacted different certifications. We try to get beneficial preferential rates that are available in this product as well to get certified. And we also provide information on funding available in different regions, Singapore being one of the places where there is funding available for certification and accommodation partners can accept that. This is what our product looks like. So we think, to finalize, that the role of distributors is to make it easier for the industry to make more sustainable travel choices. For us, more sustainable travel choices are third-party certifications, and we really look forward, and this is where our effort is to push the availability of these accommodations to provide our travelers what they're looking for. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. And now we'll move to Justin.
Thank you. Hi, very good morning. I particularly like this question, this topic that Roy brought up. What do roles distributors have to do on this panel on sustainability? We don't own any products. We don't own the hotels. We don't own the attractions. So let me tell you a little bit more over here. I'm Justin. I take care of partnerships in APAC with governments and drive sustainability in our company. So at HBX Group, we are very dedicated to actually reducing our carbon footprint in what we do. And so we ask ourselves, why fly all the way around the world to come to Singapore and talk about sustainability? So instead, I've been sent as a representative, as a replacement to Elena, our Chief HR and Sustainability ESG Officer, to talk about this, reducing our carbon footprint as much as we can, and to share with you more about our efforts. So for all of you that don't know, we are probably the largest travel company that maybe you never heard of, particularly because we operate only in the purely B2B space. So what do we do? As a distributor, we distribute products from hotels, properties, all the way to activities, tours, car rental, insurance, and we have a wide range of the whole entire travel ecosystem in our platform that sells to travel partners. So pretty much to say, we power the travel industry globally. And another very big number that I like to share, and the team loves to share about this as well, through us, we actually power 5.6 billion searches for travel products daily. The number is daily, 5.6 billion daily. And that's second to Google, which is about 8.5 billion daily in terms of searches. So with that, we are very, very rich in data. And data in terms of what people are looking for, what's happening in the industry, which markets are looking for whatever products that they need. So that is where we come into a place of a distributor of a B2B. And to give you a little quick overview, with HBX Group, as the group goes, there are a couple of names that you might have been familiar with. HotelBids, where we work a lot on the business of contracting, working with the hotels and the properties and attractions. Bates Online, where we deal with the sales to the travel agents. And Market Hub, another one that I will highlight, is that one of our keynote events that we host annually in 3 different areas, in America, in Europe, as well as in Asia. And for those industry veterans, you might be familiar with our previous names and companies, such as GTA, as well as Tourico Holidays. So, our ESG contribution and commitment. ESG is very much important and embedded into the role of sustainability for HBX Group. And let me show you a little bit on what we do here. There are 3 things that we focus a lot on. And first of all, it's of course the people. As a distributor, we don't own the products, but we have the people. And the people are the most important in making sure that our efforts are seen, are heard, as well as being distributed all across our industry. So we engage our employees a lot through a lot of awareness, trainings with GSTC, working with them, volunteering, to actually make sure that people of the 3,700 people at HBX Group are familiar with sustainability itself, GSTC standards, understanding what we're doing, and how this can trickle down to the industry that we work with. Secondly, influence and partners. Of course, partners are the most important people that we deal with because we are pretty much embedded in getting all the supply and distributing it to the world. So we work very closely with our hotel partners, our attraction partners, our tour operators to make sure that we have a positive impact in sustainability. And I'll tell you more about how we do that later. And lastly, I personally as well always believe a lot in collaboration between the NGOs, the government bodies, and there's a lot of collaborations that should be done and could be done between public and private. And just a few of our commitments on the right side you see over there, it's all certification, partner programs, things that we've been working on through the years. So, our ESG commitment, this is a very big list over there, but let me highlight two things over here. First, on the top right corner, you see sustainable hotels. 40,000 hotels are certified sustainable on our platform. That's one. The second thing I want to highlight, it's of course on the bottom left side where I talk about people, social, volunteers. It's a program that we have for all employees and also our partners that we volunteer our hours to do good for the society, for the environment as part of our ESG standards. And we have done so with 8,000 volunteers hours so far. So, talking about sustainable hotels, we did a lot of research into our data that we have, 5.6 billion results a day. We actually see that there is a huge interest, there is a huge surge, there is a market need from our partners to consumers that are looking to consider sustainability as very, very important. And the number comes at 94%. Yep. And when with that, they actually aim to be sustainable in their purchases, in their stay, and lastly, they intend to travel more sustainability. That's one thing. And then beyond that, getting certified hotels, and then after, the impact we managed to do through the distribution space is that we have 40,000 sustainable hotels certified, partly under GSTC and also other different certification bodies around the world. And 30% of these properties have outperformed their usual sales, their usual standards, and it's very clear, it's showing that people are looking at it. And to put it clearly, what we do in this is actually we kind of put pressure on the merchants. We put pressure on the hotels, on the properties, to tell them that, please help us, help all of us, help the world, and we can work together better. Another way to show it is that I was talking about 30% growth in sustainable travel that we have seen since we started this hotel program. And we have always been putting shining spotlight on this topic itself, as we see that it's a very crucial for not just sustainability as a word, as a name to the environment and the hotels, but also core to our business, to survive, to continue what we do, and to be strong in the environment that we are needed. So we started this program in 2019 with 15,000 hotels, and then through a lot of partnerships and work we had with GSTC, of course, we have increased the number to 40,000 hotels that actually only just represent 20% of our current portfolio. Of course, this number is not enough. We're looking to push it a lot more, and I think David mentioned a couple of things that are very good. Certification is expensive. The process is long and tedious. This is where we are also working a lot in hand with our partners to make sure that we could give them the right guidance, the support from the DMOs themselves to get this all across the line. Lastly, talking about volunteer hours, right? This is something I hold dearly to my heart. So in a sense, we have a project that is very dedicated, that is focused on volunteering, and it's called Think Big. So what exactly is a Think Big? This is actually our pioneer program where we started about conceptualizing a couple of years ago, but the first batch actually started early 2024. And this is where we focus on trying to solve and help a little bit the situation of responsible, conscious tourism and avoiding over-tourism. And how we do that is by creating micro destinations that are very beneficial to the environment, very beneficial to the people, to the community, to the ecosystem that we work with. And we believe in doing this could actually help us. So Project Think Big, it started off this year as well. It started in Quintana Roo. So all of you might know Quintana Roo as a very famous destination spot. If you don't know Quintana Roo, let me tell you Cancun. That's where it is based. But everyone's going to Cancun. All the Americans are in Cancun. But what can we do to help Cancun more? Quintana Roo more. So Project Think Big actually sent 10 of our volunteers to go down to Quintana Roo, understand the ecosystem of the travel, provide guidance in digitalization, and actually help develop some local travel products with the partners over there. And one of them is with the Mayan Collective that's very indigenous, talk about the food, the culture, and actually help bring economic prosperity to the environment. And this is a project currently, you can actually book this product through our B2B partners on the platform. With that said, lastly, I want to share with you that my team, Carlota, has told me about that we need to share. We're also doing our efforts in sharing more news, articles, important information about what we do in sustainability. And please feel free to scan the QR code to keep updated on what HBX Group is doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. And now we'll move to Jonathan.
Thank you, Roy. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Jonathan from BCD Travel. As Roy has introduced, we're a travel management company. And so basically, we handle corporate travel for our companies. So basically, in terms of air booking, hotels, and in China, we do book a lot of rail as well, and local transportation. So I think I'm one of very few people from the corporate travel industry here at the conference. And I'm more of a student in terms of sustainability than a panelist, but I'm happy to be here today to learn from everyone and also to share a little bit about what we have done this year and last year with GSTC in China. So before we talked about the actual things that we did, I'll share a little bit of a background. So in China, there are some special circumstances that we faced in the corporate travel industry. So I think the first one is that a lot of companies, it's still, I guess, in the beginning stage of looking at sustainability, but there is not a lot of budget allocated to it. So as you all know, without any budget, then it's very difficult to push initiatives through in a corporate environment. So I think at the moment, only about a third of the companies that we surveyed have actual budget that is allocated to sustainability costs. And then the other challenges we face is the insufficient data. So data, it's always very important. I've heard a couple of panel speakers shared in yesterday about data. So without data, it's difficult to do measurement, and without measurement, we cannot really put intelligent action in place. So a few of the challenges we face in China is because China is such a big country, we have a lot of different, for example, source of power. So what I mean is that even within China, there's no one standard way of providing power in terms of electricity and energy. So like, for example, in the northern part of China, we use a lot more coal, traditional fire-powered electricity, whereas if you talk about Sichuan province, there's a lot more hydropower, and the same in the western part of China, there's a lot more solar power and wind power involved. So the measurement is all different, especially for rail. So for example, when we try to measure how much carbon emission it's emitted from a high-speed rail ride. So we do a lot of rail in China for business travel and for leisure as well. So actually, all the trains are different depending on where they're coming from. So if they're running between Shanghai and Beijing compared to in the western part of China or the southern part of China, it's all different. So fortunately, we are able to have some measurement nowadays from the, we get some data from the official China Rail department. So we have some kind of baseline for this measurement to provide to our customers. And then it's the same as for hotel as well. So hotel is all, depending on your location, it's all very complex as well. And then the other part is the employee awareness, and we see there is a different degree of awareness, both for the travel managers themselves. So we see that some of the travel managers, they're very fluent in sustainability, they know what they're doing, they know what they want, but whereas others, they only heard about it as a buzzword, but they're not exactly sure what they want or where they want to go. So I think we have to do continuing education. And then finally, I think again, has to do with budget. So we surveyed only 1% of the Chinese companies is willing to pay extra for sustainability choice. So I did actually saw a speaker yesterday to talk about that 40% of the travelers in Singapore is willing to pay a premium for travel. So I think it's a little bit of contrast. But I think yesterday what he mentioned was leisure travelers. But this is more in the corporate environments. Only 1% of the companies are willing to do that. So there are two school of thought. So some felt that sustainability companies should not be paying more to be sustainable. We should look at different choices. I think it's still debatable. And then some of the other market context I will share as well. And we have only part of the companies have a very official travel policy on sustainability. And like SAF is a limitation in China, for example, because of the production. So the Chinese government, the China Civil Aviation Department, just announced that they're starting testing on 12 flights a day since September on SAF. And even with that, 12 flights a day, it's only a very small percentage of the total number of flights each day. So each day in China, civil aviation, there is over 12,000 flights each day departing in China. So we're talking about less than 0.0% of adoption. So we still have a long way to go. And then I think some of the other things we can do is that is more substantial in terms of reducing carbon emission, carbon footprint, and corporate travel in China is by switching from airplane to rail, because rail does have a much lower carbon footprint, and we see that some of the companies are implementing these type of action in place that can reduce the carbon emission substantially. So with that, what we've done is working with GSTC and Colorful Earth in China, and together we put together a guidebook on, it's called the Guidelines for Developing Corporate Sustainable Business Travel Strategies. For those of you interested, unfortunately, I apologize, only in Chinese language, but you can download from the QR code. So this is a guidebook we put out together, 60 pages long, and a lot of information to provide to our companies, our clients and prospects, or any companies operating in China, how they can look at starting a sustainable corporate travel program. So what are some of the examples that we have done, case studies from other large global companies that they can follow, and what are some of the measurements they can put in place. So, as I said, these are some of the components of the guidebook. So we have the assessment framework talking about the measurement, setting goals, how to plan the policy, and very importantly is the education and stakeholder engagement, how we can inform from the CEO, CFO, and to travelers themselves to make more informed or sustainable choices in their day-to-day corporate travel. And so that's not it. So this is only our first step in working with GSTC and Colorful Earth. So going forward in the next 12 months next year, we're going to put together more training programs. So based on the content we have already provided, and continuously we'll update them. So we are going to run some small group seminars locally in China, especially with our travel managers and procurement specialists who's responsible for corporate travel, to bring them into a half-a-day training to talk about, target setting, goal setting, measurement, what are some of the best practice, so that we can have raised the benchmark and also the awareness of in the marketplace, and what are some things that can be done in China. And we already, as a company, we already provided in our online booking tool and our app the carbon emission information for air, for rail, and we're working on the hotel because it's still quite complex, but definitely we'll get there. And then also, I think with the awareness, we are able to push for more certification that we talked a lot about, especially for hotel, because at the moment the definitely is less than I think it's even less than 0.1% of the hotels in China they have any form of disclosure on CO2 emission or water resource use and biodiversity. What are some of the, especially for hotels in the remote areas, what are they doing to the landscape and the local habitat? So I think it's definitely a continuous improvement in program that we're looking at. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for me. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, David. Rebecca.
Thank you. So, hi everyone, good afternoon. Thank you to Roy and GSTC and Sentosa for hosting this wonderful conference. And I'm very happy about a little bit of what we're doing at Klook to advance sustainability. As Roy mentioned earlier, I've been at Klook for quite a long time, over 10 years now, and that's given me the unique chance to see, in my first few years I was working in various different areas of the business, and in the last 2 years turning to lead the sustainability team. But that's given me a really unique opportunity to understand how we can help to advance sustainability both internally and externally at Klook. So a little bit about Klook. So while you've been in Singapore, I hope you've had a chance to explore the destination and book some things to do here, and that you may even use Klook to find and book things to do in Singapore. So we are a travel and experiences platform. Originally, we started with very much the things to do category, but over the last 10 years, we've really developed into other verticals such as mobility and accommodation and other travel services. And our user base, we started again with predominantly Asian customers, but we've really grown over the last 10 years to have a really global user base. And the majority of our customers are the millennials and Gen Zs. So where does Klook fit into the world of sustainability? As an online platform, we're really uniquely positioned in the middle of the travel ecosystem. So we really can influence various areas of the travel industry, so from both the supply and the demand side. And we work in collaboration with a network of NGOs, organizations such as GSTC, and other parties to help advance sustainability. And then from the customer side of things, so we have over 70 million visits to our platform every month, and that helps us to. It's a really great opportunity for us to influence the customers on, well, firstly on why sustainability might be important, and also guide them into making decisions when they're booking experiences to prioritize sustainable activities. And with that increased demand and awareness for sustainability, we can really then share that with the operators, the merchants, and I realize I use the term merchant, operator, supplier, partner kind of interchangeably, but ultimately I'm referring to the same thing. So we can share that information with the operators and help them, guide them on how they can obtain a sustainability certification. And especially in the tours and activities space, I think the awareness is not quite there yet. There's a lot of education required to really get everyone on board and understanding the importance of that. And then we can play our part in recognizing our partners, tour operators, who have put in the time and effort to gain a sustainability certification and really showcase them as sort of ambassadors of sustainable travel, such as with things like a digital badge on their listings, and I'll talk about that in a second. And then beyond that, we can further incentivize more partners, more providers to gain sustainability certifications and show them that it's sort of worth doing that with preferential placement on our website and platform via badges or blog posts or access to our huge network of influencers. So one of the projects we recently launched is our Certified Sustainable Partner Badge. And there's 3 reasons that we launched this badge. So firstly is so that customers can it's easier for customers to find sustainable experiences on the platform and to make a decision. We can guide their decision to booking a more sustainable experience. Secondly, it's, as I said, with the recognition. So partners of ours that may have gained a certification many years ago even, now we can really showcase them on our platform and give them credit for the work they've put into that. And thirdly, it's to incentivize other partners. They're looking at their competitors and peers, and they've seen that other partners are now displaying this badge. Quickly, I want to talk about a study we recently did. So this year marks our 10th birthday at Klook, and we wanted, as it's a significant milestone for us, we wanted to look back at our economic impact over the last 10 years. So we worked with Oxford Economics on an independent study that determined that we have, in 2023, contributed 7.2 billion GDP in APAC and supported 219,000 jobs. So every booking on Klook creates a sort of ripple effect through the local economy. So it's that supplier, the tour operator that runs the activity, their supply chain, so the transportation or the restaurants that they take customers to, and then in turn that ripples down to the employees who then spend their earnings in the local economy. And the tourism sector is so important for so many countries, and it's really sort of the backbone of these small to medium businesses that are so important. And actually at Klook, these small to medium merchants make up 80% of our products on Klook. And we can really play a role in connecting those small to medium businesses with the customers that they otherwise wouldn't have access to with our global user base. So it's really a huge task to advance sustainability, but I think we all have our unique strengths and abilities in pushing that forwards. So one thing I wanted to talk about is the 3 different areas that we feel we really have that unique strength. So firstly is this the influencer network that we have. So we call them our Klook creators. And this is a community of over 20,000 creators across 16 different markets and almost just as many different social media platforms that they work with. So we can really leverage this community to help advance and to promote sustainable travel and sustainable experiences. Secondly, it's further improving this Certified Sustainable Partner Badge, making it even easier to filter and find those experiences on Klook. And lastly, with the continued merchant support, so training and workshops, working with GSTC and others to help them gain the certifications. And it's really important to rely on partners like that to help navigate the world of certifications because it's so tricky. And so, I hope that's shown you that even though we don't own any of the products, we can really use our unique strengths to help influence and advance sustainability overall. And my email's there, easy to remember, Rebecca at Klook. So if there's any questions about sustainability at Klook, please ask me. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Actually, I want to start with you because I realized that there was a slide. There was a missing slide there.
I can talk about it briefly. I don't know why the slide's gone.
Very quickly to share about that.
So one of the other projects that we've been working on is our work with elephant sanctuaries. So in Asia, elephants hold significant cultural, religious, and economic importance. And we realized that a lot of the or when we're looking at elephant sanctuaries, it was really hard for us to make a decision about which kind of experiences we should have on Klook. And in certain countries in Asia, people have been working with elephants for thousands of years, and it was very hard for us to come in and say this is right and this isn't right, you know. So we actually worked with experts in elephant welfare and camp management, elephant camp management, to develop an assessment process for all the elephant experiences that are featured on Klook. And it takes into account various different parts of the elephant sanctuary experience, obviously elephant welfare, but also looking at the mahout welfare, that's the elephant caretaker and other employees, their working conditions, customer safety and customer experience, and also looking at how those camps serve the local community, so working with local farmers to provide food for the elephants, or employing local staff to be the cooks in the sanctuaries and things like that. So we feature a sort of Klook assessed badge on certain elephant experiences on Klook, and that gives customers the, here we are, maybe I just skipped it, I'm not sure. It gives customers, you know, they have that assurance that there's been some checks of that camp, and it also helps to influence the other camps around, you know, to provide that sort of competitive aspect that they also want to raise the standards across the industry.
Thanks, Rebecca. So a few questions. I see that we have people already asking questions on Slido, but there are a few questions I'd like to ask first. David, you mentioned on the one hand, you mentioned that less than 1% of the accommodations are actually marked as certified by third-party certification bodies as sustainable. On the other hand, you show the report that says clients, the travelers, actually really search for it. Do you think that, I mean, you've presented also challenges in that fact, and that do you think that certification bodies are actually prepared to support accommodations and to accommodate in this way to become certified, to show that they are actually sustainable on the one hand, and on the other hand, our hotels are actually moving towards that direction from your perspective, from what you have seen?
Yes, that is the key question that we really want to answer. We have travelers that say that they want a sustainability label in where they're staying, but there aren't enough supply. And from the certification perspective, we see two key challenges. One of them is upcoming regulation. There's going to be upcoming regulation at the EU level that will apply, that will have global impacts, and that is a task where some certifications are really working towards, and some are waiting a little bit more on how the regulation develops. But that is a significant challenge. And the second challenge that is really important is that if we want to go from less than 1% to offering a significant number of the millions that are accommodations that are available, certifications need to grow at scale. It's not about growing 2%, 3%, 5%, or 10% a year. They need to be prepared to grow at scale. And that involves also operational decisions. How do certifications prepare for such a growth? How do the auditing processes are designed in order to happen? If we're going to go on site to every single hotel to conduct all the auditing process on site, is that feasible? Is that scalable at the level that we really want? So we really see a challenge on that front as well, not only on the regulatory, but also on the operational and administrative front.
Actually, as you say it, I think that in Turkey, that has been a kind of a good example of how within a very short period of time, that huge demand has led to more certification bodies operating, providing more auditors, there are more trainings, more support from consultancies, and so on. And I think, Elif, we will talk about it today in the afternoon as part of the plenary session. So that's a very good, interesting comment. And let's stay with you, David, because I see that Anonymous here. Who is Anonymous? He's getting, he or she are getting a lot of upvotes, so let's choose that question. Oh, sorry, I accidentally...
We lost the question.
Yeah. Hardy, can you help to bring that back?
This is the first one.
Yes. Yeah, if you can answer this one.
Yeah. So it's a very interesting question. Last year, this year actually, we engaged on a dialogue with the ACM, which is the Dutch Consumer Protection Agency, because they had comments on the Travel Sustainable program that we had live. And the comments were whether the program was aligned with the existing regulation, basically showing the leaves. I don't know if you remember, but the Travel Sustainable program showed green leaves. It was called Travel Sustainable Program. So the use of the word sustainable in the new regulation, the use of leaves in the new regulation is a no zone. So we had to take the program down. We also had issues because the regulation doesn't allow you to aggregate scores. So if you do things in water management and you do things in waste management and you give them score and you aggregate them and give them an aggregated score, that is not allowed in some elements of the regulation. So the regulation is really challenging, and that's why we had to transform the program and turn it into this new version, which is a program that focuses exclusively on certified accommodations. That's why when we said that we're launching this product based on exclusively on certifications, is based partly on consumer preferences, but also on the evolution of the regulatory framework.
Let's move to Jonathan with a question that I had here, but let's take also the second question from Anonymous. There are many stats of guests having intent to use sustainable and pay more. Are there any stats on actual conversion? So I'm going to shift it a little bit based on what you shared. And a question on that is, it doesn't have to be the guest, right? It can be the corporates that you work with.
Yep.
There's a part where they, of course, would love to have more sustainable options and choose that, but actually how many are actually doing it besides saying that's our preference? And if you can do a follow-up on that, in a way you spoke on transportation, and many times with corporate travel, the easy way is to speak about transportation because it's easily measurable and there's a big option to choose. Okay, we can offset our flights, or we can choose to use electric trains or whatever. But with accommodations, because the amount is smaller, so if you can focus more on the accommodation part, a little bit more challenging to answer, but I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah, so before we get into corporate, so I just remember there was a study done by McKinsey in China about choices in sustainability. So one of the questions is asked, these are leisure individual travelers, so they're paying themselves. So whether sustainability is important in their travel decision, so which supplier to choose. And I think over 60, I don't remember exactly, but I believe it's over 65% of the people said that it's important. And then after a few questions, there were other questions. Are you willing to pay more a premium for your sustainability choice? And then I think only less than 10%. So I think it's a very drastic contrast there. For corporate, I think that most of the companies recognize that sustainability is important. But I think in the company setting, it's not necessarily they're willing to pay more. So for individual transaction, I believe that companies do not mind paying a little bit more, but I think we're talking about in the context of the overall travel program as a travel budget. Say you have $10 million in travel budget in a year, are you going to pay more for sustainability? And then I think the answer is like 99% of the companies will say no. And I believe how the companies are planning to achieve sustainability is by changing the choice in travel. So first of all, meaningful travel. So for any trips, business trips coming up, so the first questions for companies, some of the companies they'll ask, is it important that you travel physically to this location? So I think after a lot has changed since COVID, especially for internal meetings and non-customer facing activities, a lot of companies will move these meetings online and have to make it happen virtually. So there's definitely savings in that area. And also, I think that changing from air to rail as well. And then for hotel, I think it's still a bit of a gray area right now because, as I said, there is a very much lack of data available in China right now. So, but I think that the companies is definitely looking at that. So one of the services we offer in our tool is we also provide a what we call a carbon budget for the option for the clients. So like if a company, they have a certain amount of carbon CO2 emission budget for the whole year, we can break it down into individual cost center so that the travelers can actually see how much CO2 emission is left for their department, for their business unit until the rest of the year so that they can allocate accordingly. So I think we find that this visual, what we call visual guilt, is very important. So when they say, hey, there's a flight that is only half the CO2 emission from another alternative flight, then they are more inclined to choose that.
Thank you, Jonathan. Let's move to Justin. I'd like to ask you also, well, there is also a thing that, there was actually a question here directed to you. Where did it disappear? Oh, here. Highlight it, let's see, did it work? Yeah. Okay. So your group pushed the merchant to involve more in ESG initiative and kind of promote sustainability by your merchants, right? As kind of what you meant, what we discussed here is it's eventually not us, it's our partners and so on. How do you actually convince them that to bring them on board in that sense? How do you actually, those that's Jonathan just said about that not necessarily everyone will actually follow those directions. So how do you bring your partners to be more involved and take the first step?
Yeah. So data is at the heart of how we do business at HBX Group. And of course, 5.6 billion searches data, it's a massive load. And trying to make sense of it actually have told us a lot of things that people, searchers, are in fact looking for sustainable options. And with this data, we actually go back right to the source of the supply. We go down to our merchants, to the hotel, tell them that, hey, look, there is a huge trend. Not just a trend, there's a huge change in behaviors. There's a huge shift in the dynamics of how people are looking for travel. They're looking to travel more sustainably. They're looking for options in the field. They are looking for things that they feel good for the environment, for themselves, and also for the world. And with this data, it might not necessarily convert into bookings, I'll be honest with you, but it does show that we need to put emphasis into it. And with this data, we actually go down to our merchant, our partners, we open dialogues with them, we have discussion with them, tell them that, hey, this is something that's going to happen. It might not convert or might not affect a lot of your business right now, but it is shifting in certain markets. But in several mature markets on sustainability, like for example, where we're very much based in Europe, we do see that shift massively. Like I mentioned, there was a 30% increase in options of bookings into sustainable certified hotels with the likes of GSTC, WTTC, and so on. So this is how we actually slowly, I would say it, I wouldn't say put pressure maybe, we slowly nudge the merchants in a direction to get the right certification. We provide them access to understand the business, the numbers, the data, to go pursue such options of certifications, as well as to be more sustainable in their business.
Thank you, Justin. And a question to you, Rebecca, because you mentioned in one of the slides that 80% of your partners, suppliers, and so on, different terminologies for the same guys, they are small and medium companies. Perhaps it's a little bit early because you just launched the program, but how it's quite often interesting to think about the question that many times I hear from GSTC members and partners asking, okay, it's very easy perhaps for a large group like Best Western Hotels or Six Senses to set standards and everyone need to follow it. But we're talking about small players, small companies that operate all over the places where you work with. Do you perceive that there will be some challenges or perhaps places where they actually have benefit or they're a little bit ahead of others where they can move forward with sustainability efforts?
Yeah, definitely there are many challenges, especially in the tour and activity space, because it's just less well known amongst those kind of providers about sustainability certifications versus hotels, for example. So I think that awareness and education piece is really important. So these trainings, getting a group of tour operators together to really educate on that. And then also for the ones that have actually put in the time and effort, because it is quite a lot of work, it can be costly, to really do our part to show that it's worthwhile, that they can get more bookings through Klook if they're listed on Klook because we have this badge, or we're working with an influencer that really promotes that activity as being sustainable. And yeah, regionally, for sure, you see a difference in some places, like Singapore, for example. It's very well known, all these certifications, but there's other places where it's just starting, and then that education piece has to go even further to build the awareness.
Thank you. Well, there's a question for you, but I think that David will answer it better because in Booking.com, you've been doing this study, right, of customers and their sustainability mindset and preferences for the past few years. And you can really see, if you go at the report, your sustainability report, 2024, 2023, 2020, 2019, you really see the difference of preferences by the clients and customers. Do you also see, do you have the information about the generation, the age of the people that are actually have more different preferences in that sense?
Yeah, we conduct several surveys, and we do open up for age groups, and we do see that there's certain generations that are more keen, more interested in traveling more sustainably. The challenge that we have is that there is a gap between what people say and what people do. And we've been measuring a lot what people say, and we get really excited because I think it's good news. People do want to travel more sustainably. And the challenge now, this is where our efforts are, is to measure what people actually do. Are people really willing to pay this 10% that you refer to? Are 10% of the people really willing to pay more? How much more are they willing to pay? So I think this is the next challenge, not only the generational willingness to travel more sustainably.
I see. Thank you. And Rebecca, in that sense, you also have, do you see that in your customers, do you see that difference between interest from consumers, more sustainable products or not so much?
Yeah, so I think we don't have sustainably specific surveys, so thank you to Booking.com for doing the surveys, because we can use that information. But we have our Travel Pulse survey, so we know from that the millennials and Gen Zs are looking for slower travel, so that's related to sustainability. They want to spend longer in a destination, really get to know the local culture and things. And then more anecdotally, we have hundreds of thousands of verified user reviews on the platform, and we can really dive into those and divide them up about what kind of topics are covered. So we have seen, definitely more more customers looking for sustainable experiences or mentioning that they visited an elephant sanctuary, for example, because it was on the Klook assessed sanctuary program.
I see. So let's talk a little bit about the destination itself, right? Justin, you're here in Asia Pacific, and one of your roles is actually speaking with destinations, governmental partners, and so on. How do you actually do that, right? We spoke about your supply chain in more the partners on your platform, but you also collaborate with different destinations. I mean, I know each one of you have this collaboration, each organization. How do you do that? Are there specific topics that you have this partnership with a destination or destinations?
Yes. So with our data and together with the direction of the destinations, DMOs, or governments themselves, public, we are able to actually sit together and understand more what their needs are and also backing up with the data. So for example, a lot of things that we see nowadays is always a lot of a talk about, let's just say, over-tourism, right? It's always an endemic problem. Revenge travel was post-COVID. Then after that, we start seeing massive influx of tourism in certain destinations. But this love for tourism is not being spread out across evenly through the destination. You probably seen last summer, there was a lot of protests going around in Europe where we are based in about tourists going home. These are not things that are very responsible. And we identify that, we see that we have a part to play at HBX Group for that. So this is where we focus a lot more in trying to build new micro destination. So this is where it goes back to Project Think Big. Quintana Roo is just an example for the first one that we did this year. We're going to focus a lot more into India as well as Indonesia in the coming years as well to develop such micro destinations that we can actually bring prosperity to the region, to the destination beyond the usual norm. And this is not just backed by data. This is also backed by a lot of consumer trends that are happening. People are looking for things beyond the usual. I don't want to just go to a city from another city. I want that authentic travel experience. I want something I feel like I'm working with my hands. This is where they go to Quintana Roo. We work with the collective and the Mayan collective to actually learn about local culture that has been thousands of years. This is something that I've been hearing from one of my colleagues, Daniela, who was the first batch of volunteers that went down there to actually experience the product themselves. That's one. Second part that they were able to do is help digitalize the product such that it could be accessible to our trade partners around the world, and it could be shared to be bought by travelers like ourselves. This is one thing that we do. So developing micro-destinations is a very key part of what we do in terms of working with the governments and how to shift the part of seasonal travels to even over-tourism per se. This is something that we focus a lot on.
Thank you. And there's a question that I would like to answer. Again, from Anonymous. They're asking a lot of questions. Okay. About funding for operators to achieve sustainability certification. So I want to answer something about that, not directly to the certification itself, but one step that you would need to take before, and that's to know what the standard is, to know what you are actually trying to do and understand. So you are probably all of you are familiar with the GSTC training program, the STTP, and we have different trainings that we're doing, and we have quite a few of our partners that we work with that actually sponsor trainings. I mean, also Booking.com, you provide information on your platform for your partners. Jonathan BCD, you are also providing a lot of this guidance, and we just talked about that handbook. So at GSTC, here are a few examples. We have EasyJet Holidays that have been sponsoring trainings to their key destinations where they send a lot of their clients to. So they fly to Southern Europe, to Greece, to Spain, to Turkey, and we've been conducting with their funding. GSTC has provided the service of the training, and they funded it to their hotel partners, and the trainings are in Spanish, in Greek, in Turkish, and it's been very successful. Here in Asia, we have also both Agoda and Traveloka have been doing that for a few years, where they actually sponsor trainings for the hotel partners in different parts, in Bali and in Thailand and in Malaysia and in Singapore and quite a few other places around. So the training part, I just want to say before jumping into certification, is really crucial. because you can't really go, okay, from 0 to 100 without these few steps in between. Saying that, I think that the product that you just showed is actually something that's supposed to help a little bit into that guidance, right? So less on the focus on the education, but actually help to understand, okay, what's coming next. There are some destinations that support with funding, reimbursements, or capping of certification prices, but these are very specifics. I think that there have been a number of conversations about that, but it's a little bit hard for the OTAs to provide that financial support, because it eventually needs to be something sustainable that they actually need that, or it's the destination that needs that. Because those service providers, the accommodations, the tour operators, they work with you, they work with them, they work with them, they work with many other partners. So that's my comment on this question by Anonymous. Okay, and for Jonathan, I had here a question for you. It will be good to hear. Related to that support, right? So can you share an example of how actually a company might progress from basic, right? So they're just starting from that 0, maybe 1, 2, 3% in the progress, to actually go to be more sophisticated sustainability practices using that framework?
Yes, so I think the very first step, so a lot of companies in China, they're actually in this stage right now, is that they wanted to look at sustainability, but they don't know how to do that. Maybe some of you know, in China, the government's policy is to have net zero by 2060. So we know that a lot of the things are moving right now. So we see that the electric vehicles is happening and is really gaining a lot of momentum. And also the price is actually dropping very fast in China with the batteries production and the car production. So back to the travel program, I think the first and most important step is to have measurement and data. So we, as travel management companies, I think most travel management companies already do that, is to provide the data to look at a base level and working with our clients, procurement travel manager or procurement head, and also even their CEO and CFO to set a goal. So we have a measurement from previous years, and we set a goal, let's say a 5% reduction in the next year's CO2 emission. And then we would provide suggestions on, so I think once the goal is set, so the role of the travel management company is to provide options on how to do that. And some of the things I've mentioned earlier is to review the overall number of trips, and so what kind of trips are happening and how to do it, like changing to rail, changing to airlines that are using or supporting SAF, Sustainable Air Fuel, and also looking at hotels. So we're thinking next year to identify hotel based on some kind of accreditation and certification. So through that, we can set up a program for the companies. But I think the most important part is still education. So having policies is one thing, but we really need the travelers, everyone, and also obviously the CEO and CFOs to be on board as a champion or sponsor for this program.
Thank you. I think it will be the last question for Slido because we need to wrap up. So David, that's a short one for you. Prioritizing of ranking of hotel properties that are certified, right? You've had the program for quite some time now. I think that many are curious when they search for, okay, hotel November 15 in Singapore, will they first see on booking.com, will they first see those that are certified as sustainable, or there are some other things in the algorithm that will show it differently?
The algorithm is extremely complex, so I wouldn't even get into that. But what we do is allowing for filtering for certified hotels. So every traveler that goes into booking.com can search for accommodations that are certified. clicking the filter, and you're going to get a whole lot in some destination, not so much in some others because the challenges that we have on the supply. But this is the way that we have in order to look for certified accommodations.
Thank you. We're done with the panel, and we'll soon hop for lunch, but there will be also a small information about some activity in the afternoon. But before we do that, what was your favorite? Each one will tell me one word. Your favorite dish so far at the conference. Rebecca, your favorite dish. Go.
Oh, can I go last?
Many favorite dishes. The cookies have been great, the orange cookies. But yesterday we went to a street market that was fantastic. So my favorite food has been outside.
Justin?
Favorite food?
At the conference.
At the conference, I would say that being Singaporean, I have to say chicken rice.
Jonathan?
I had the plant-based chicken yesterday, so it's the first time I have that. So I think it's very, it feels very real.
Congratulations to the new vegetarian. Thank you all.